everyone. Thank you so much for joining us here today at Women in the New Economy. I'm Alexis Pappas, the Executive Director of the Canadian Blockchain Association for Women, and today we're going to be exploring some of the emerging opportunities for women to get engaged in our growing blockchain industry. We have an incredible group of speakers here today, all female leaders in our industry, who are going to be sharing their insights on how a specialization in blockchain and crypto help them accelerate their careers, on the importance of community building in creating an inclusive industry. And on our panel, we're going to be discussing some of the diverse paths that sometimes unexpectedly led us into the blockchain industry. This is such an exciting time and filled with opportunity. This whole new digital world and digital economy are taking shape, and everyone here today can have an important role to play in helping build it. We are so grateful for the support of our sponsors in our mission to create an inclusive industry. We are very excited to be able to offer blockchain accelerator grants to women who are currently pursuing blockchain education. And we're going to be announcing these over the next month. So this is just a very exciting time, and I'm really looking forward to the event today. And I hope to be able to chat with you a bit later on in the breakout rooms. So now I'm going to pass it over to one of our board members, Pamela Draper, who's going to be introducing our keynote speaker today, Lori Stein. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for our keynote speaker, Lori Stein. While Alexis has provided an overview of the event and CBAW, I wanted to add that as a woman who has always worked in the male-dominated industry, organizations like CBAW and networking events like this have been so valuable throughout my own career. So we hope that you enjoy today. They're helpful in terms of meeting new people, being inspired in new ways, and at times seeing things a little bit differently. So while we still live in this virtual world, and hopefully not for much longer, I would encourage all of you participating today to feel comfortable reaching out to any of the CBAW members and today's great speakers. Before I get introducing our keynote speaker, I wanted to take a brief moment to thank our sponsors who have helped CBAW and made this event possible. They are extremely important partners of the Canadian blockchain ecosystem and companies worth taking a look at. So these include Digital Commerce Bank, Guild One, Covalent, Patino Payments, BitBow, Mavenet, Bitfarms, 3IQ, and iMining. Please check them out following this event if you haven't already done so. They're great people doing great things in the space. And now finally, I have the absolute pleasure of introducing today's keynote speaker, Lori Stein, who will be speaking to us about blockchain as a career accelerant for women. Lori is a true pioneer in the Canadian space, having assisted companies years before blockchain and cryptocurrency were mainstream. As a result, I would personally consider Lori one of the most knowledgeable people in the space in Canada, period. She has truly helped shape the landscape of the sector in Canada through the work that she's done with some of today's events participating sponsors, as well as many others. Currently a partner at Osler, Hoskin Harcourt LLP, after obtaining her education from McGill and then the University of Toronto's Law School, Lori has spent almost 20 years working with traditional investment funds and asset managers before commencing her practice in the digital asset space as it came of age in Canada and the rest of the world for that matter. I've personally worked with Lori over the past 3 years and continue to learn from her every single day. I'm excited to hear her share her thoughts and insights with you today and to have all of you learn from her as well. Lori, when you're ready, please take it away.
Thank you so much, Pam, for those kind remarks. I really enjoy working with you and the team at BitBow, and of course, many other Canadian blockchain businesses, including a lot of cryptocurrency trading platforms that are really in need of securities regulatory advice. And I'm honored to be part of this group today and to be talking to all of you about the opportunities that I think that crypto assets, digital assets, and the blockchain present to Canadian women and women all over the world. So I'm going to share my story, how I ended up where I am, sort of leading the digital assets practice at Osler. But first I wanted to share an article that was published in Bloomberg News last March 2020. And when the article was published, I immediately forwarded it to my partners in the investment management practice at Osler because it articulated something that I had really been trying to express myself. And the headline of the article was, There's one place where women lead in blockchain, big law. And the article starts by saying that women blockchain and cryptocurrency lawyers are stepping into practice leadership roles at a number of major law firms, defying expectations in two notoriously male-dominated fields, technology and law. Women lead the blockchain practice groups in more than half a dozen leading US law firms. And I'm proud to say also at Osler, which is the firm where I started my career back in 2001, returned after a 10-year hiatus in 2014, and was admitted as a partner in 2019. The article goes on to say, blockchain and cryptocurrency is still male-dominated, which has sparked concerns about boys club type behaviors, such as throwing industry conferences at strip clubs, for example. But the emergence of these technologies has given women a new opportunity to shine in big law, a chance many did not have in tech booms of decades past. The world is different for women at law firms than it was during the internet boom and the dot-com bubble, when male lawyers were at the helm of the significant majority of tech-related law firm practice groups. And here's a quote that I love from a colleague in the US. She says, "We're not about to wait for someone to tell us it's okay to come on in. When we saw blockchain coming down the pike, we jumped on it." And I think that is really encapsulates the experience that I had. So just giving you a little bit of my history, I started practicing law. I articled in 2001, which was the dot-com boom. And I remember as a summer associate, really wanting to get involved in some of those exciting tech IPOs and expressing my interest to some of the partners that were leading that practice at that time. And I absolutely felt the sort of male-dominated tech world where it wasn't that there was any doubts that I had skills or that I was prepared to work hard and learn. There just seemed to be, there were men in the leadership positions and there were men that were the clients, and everybody seemed to be more comfortable with men. So I really wasn't given much of an opportunity at that time during that dot-com bubble to get involved in a tech practice. And I ended up getting opportunities when I started at Osler in the securities regulatory world, working in the investment management practice, which is an excellent area, advising dealers, portfolio managers, investment fund managers, and that whole area is very technical and requires a deep understanding of really prescriptive rules that vary a lot jurisdiction to jurisdiction. And over many years of practice, I developed a lot of expertise in that area. And I was working really hard, lots of hours, working on public investment funds. And like many women, I decided, you know, when I was in my late 20s that I wanted to start a family, late 20s, early 30s. And I was recruited out of Osler and went in-house into the hedge fund industry, which worked a lot better when wanting to have a young family, wanting to take some time off for maternity leave and work part-time hours. And that's what I did. And I spent almost a decade practicing in-house in the hedge fund world in Canada. And being in hedge funds, I was also in a fairly male-dominated industry where the portfolio managers, the investment decision makers, the business leaders were mostly men. And I was the general counsel and chief compliance officer. And I was always sort of the voice of caution and risk management. But because the industry was and is so heavily regulated, the business leaders recognized that it was really important to have that voice at the table and to take it seriously, and that the securities regulatory framework really was, and complying with that framework was a key to being successful in the hedge fund industry. So when I came back into private practice at Osler in 2014, I was really bringing that expertise back to the firm and advising many clients that are working in that area, not just in hedge funds, but institutional investment management, pension funds, investment fund managers, that whole world. And not surprisingly, as cryptocurrency started gaining more traction, in particular, Bitcoin was becoming, for lack of a better word, a thing in, say, 2016, 2017, one of the most entrepreneurial industry leaders in our client base was 3IQ, and Fred Pye came to my partner Andrew Azes and said, we'd like to launch an investment fund that invests in Bitcoin. And it was really considered to be a pretty revolutionary idea at that time. And we worked really hard and supported 3iQ to help them to get the regulatory approval that they needed in order to launch that fund. And that was really how I became first exposed and familiar with crypto assets, how they work, what they are as an investment asset, also as a means of payment and a utility, and sort of wrapped my head around all of the issues that constantly come up with blockchain businesses, issues around custody, auditability, the pseudonymity of the transfers, and how the assets are characterized. Are they securities? Are they derivatives? And it really was through that work with that one client that was very concentrated for a long period of time that I became familiar with all of those issues. And having had to go before the securities regulator and advocate for the position that retail investors in Canada should have access to a public Bitcoin investment fund. I don't want to say that I drank the Kool-Aid, but I spent, a couple of years doing research, getting the work done, helping 3iQ to build a fund that would pass that regulatory compliance muster. And I think Canada has become a leader in crypto asset investment funds. There are, a number of other clients that have entered the space. There are now ETFs in Canada, and I really learned a tremendous amount from that experience. And I was able to very quickly apply that knowledge to other clients that were coming in from Osler, really through our emerging and high growth companies practice, mostly, and our technologies practice. So now I'm talking about, blockchain developers, software programmers, entrepreneurs that were exploring how to use the blockchain for payments, for wealth management, for even, video games and entertainment, all kinds of applications using blockchain technology. And of course, the same securities regulatory and anti-money laundering, anti-terrorist financing issues were coming up for all of these technology entrepreneurs. And because I had the securities regulatory expertise, I was pulled in at the early stage of a lot of these entrepreneurial ventures, trying to figure out how to structure themselves either to avoid regulation or to be in compliance with regulation. And I sort of accumulated my expertise client by client, looking at a business model, looking at the securities regulatory framework, figuring out how those things would come together. And at the same time as I was trying to do that for my clients, Canadian securities regulators were trying to do that and are still trying to do that for the industry. So certainly part of this experience that I've had has also been shaped by the fact that Canada has in many ways been leading in securities regulatory developments around crypto asset trading platforms. And I want to note that, I work closely with teams at the securities regulators in Ontario, in Alberta, British Columbia, Quebec. And interestingly, there are a lot of women that are leading inside the securities regulators in those practices as well, that have really senior positions at all of the securities regulators in Canada. And so that doesn't necessarily say anything about crypto or digital assets, but it is interesting that sort of securities regulation and securities law is an area where women really do have the opportunities to apply their skills. They're willing to we are willing to roll up our sleeves and do the work. We accumulate expertise, and that expertise is needed in this space. So it's actually been fun for me to develop relationships with the regulators as well, while still advocating, of course, for our clients and their positions. It's in a very collegial environment. It's in an environment that's supporting innovation. And I truly do feel that our securities regulators do want to see our industry succeed in Canada, and are trying to offer up a flexible regulatory framework that will allow platforms like BitVo and many others to be able to offer their services and offer digital assets to Canadians. So it's not easy. There are bumps in the road, and there are lots of issues that we need to explore that are novel, but there is a willingness to work together. And one of the things that I love about practicing in this area is that the clients are so motivated and so focused and dedicated towards figuring out how to make things work, how to make things successful. And I think it's the mindset of the software developer, which is the world is not black and white. There isn't a no, or we can't do that, or that doesn't work. It's well, what are the rules and how can we build around them? How can we figure out, how can we crack the code? How can we figure out how to solve these problems to build something that will work? And I think it's that same mentality that the blockchain developers are applying when building digital assets and protocols and applications that I apply at the legal and regulatory level, and that I work with my colleagues to apply within the securities regulators and at Osler, that are helping to move the industry forward. I just want to give a really specific and concrete example about this. Just today and over the past few weeks, we've been trying to resolve some issues around how to get the banking situation for crypto asset trading platforms in Canada, how to get our banking situation compliant with the rules that apply to registered securities dealers. So I was thinking about it from a securities regulatory perspective, but I reached out this morning to two of my partners, both women at Osler. One is a research lawyer who has expertise in insolvency. The other is a financial institutions lawyer who has expertise in banking and consumer protection. And I threw out the fact pattern and I said, can you guys think about this at a high level? Let's get together tonight and do a brainstorm. And we don't call it a hackathon, but it's similar. The idea that everybody's working together and bringing their individual expertise and thinking about how that applies in the blockchain context. I also see these examples with clients, including, lots of women blockchain entrepreneur clients that are now coming to Osler and looking for advice. I recently had the privilege of meeting with a new potential client who her background is that she's been an art dealer and she's worked at one of the big art auction houses for 15 years. She's got a PhD in fine art, and she's now hooked up with a pretty sophisticated and experienced software team and tech entrepreneur to build a blockchain application that's really going to be designed as a platform for fine artists that want to develop and market NFTs, non-fungible tokens. And of course, how an NFT and how an NFT marketplace is going to be regulated is a securities regulatory question. So, right away we started talking about those issues, and it was just so exciting to see this really motivated and real sort of expert woman entrepreneur in the space that I'm just so excited to work for. And these are partnerships that we're forging with our clients in the space. So, I think I've talked a lot about my experience and my practice, but what I really want to use the rest of the time for is to suggest to you, women in tech, women in blockchain, how I see the opportunity of the digital asset world as an area where you can take the skills that you've developed in the traditional world, whether that's in finance or communications or human resources or insurance or event planning or any area, and transport it onto the blockchain. And there's sort of a wide open field of potential for you to apply those skills and to work on teams. I think that's really important. So, connecting and bringing your real world experience from whatever it is with a team of others that also can bring their experience, because it's such a collaborative industry, and figure out how things can work together and how you can transport your skills and your experience. And I do think another really interesting and somewhat unique aspect of the blockchain is how global it is. No blockchain entrepreneur comes to me and says, I want to start a business that's going to have Canadian customers. That's just not the way things work on the blockchain. Everything is global. And the whole one of the huge benefits of the blockchain is to reduce friction and to facilitate global transactions and global communications and make things seamless. And of course, the regulatory frameworks and the real worlds that we all operate in do have geographic borders. But the blockchain and the collaborative experience of that is allowing us to try to figure out ways to bridge through those borders and collaborate with people all over the world, and to sort of bring the best parts of the regulatory frameworks and the opportunities that exist in different jurisdictions to help our blockchain developers, to help our blockchain businesses. To just give an example of that, I work quite closely with law firms in the US and the UK and even some in Asia, where we have developers that are dispersed. So we'll have a development team working on a new protocol where there are a couple of developers that are founders in Canada, and then there might be one or two in Europe and Asia. And so when they're trying to figure out what regulatory framework should they fit into, we're able to sort of look at the benefits, strengths, and weaknesses of the regulatory regimes in different jurisdictions, and then to structure the business enterprise to sort of have different areas of focus in different geographic locations. And we can work together to create a structure where the entrepreneurs, wherever they are in the world, are able to participate and to engage in compliance with their local laws, but at the same time, work on an application or a protocol that is going to ultimately have global reach. So that's another area where I think that the blockchain offers a tremendous amount of opportunity to connect with people all over the world. When you're putting together these teams of expertise, you really can look globally, and the communities that have developed around the blockchain are truly global communities that are communicating using technology and that are able to collaborate and work together and build together. So from my perspective, it is really the experience of being a practitioner in this area has really reinvigorated me in terms of motivating me to really feel passionate about my clients and what they're doing and helping them to try to achieve their goals. And it is so rewarding. And even though it takes time and it's a rough slog, you know, every time we solve one problem, another one seems to come up. We're building and we're learning and we're contributing to Canada and to the ecosystem in Canada and hopefully globally. So it really is a truly unique experience that I've been privileged to have working in this space in Canada with so many great people, both on the regulatory side and on the entrepreneur side. And I just encourage all of you to look at the opportunities, look at your skills and how you can transport them onto the blockchain, and who are the teams that you want to put together to help you to get where you need to go. And I think you'll find, like I did, that if you're willing to roll up your sleeves, do the work, and are solutions oriented and want to try to solve problems, that there's going to be just a huge amount of opportunity for you in this space. So thank you so much for listening to me speak about this today. I would be more than happy to continue the dialogue with any of you. Feel free to reach out to me and reach out to me through Pam or through the organization. And you know, good luck to everyone. Thanks again.
Great. Thank you so much, Lori, for speaking to everyone today. Some really great, practically applicable advice for everyone listening. We really appreciate your time with us. Thank you.
So I'd like to welcome Jacqueline Kim Perez, the head of token marketing for Covalent, an innovative blockchain company that brings transparency and visibility to assets across diverse blockchain networks. She is a leader in the blockchain community, a powerful community builder, and she's going to be speaking today on the importance of crypto communities and how Covalent is developing new ways to get diverse participation in their ecosystem. So Jackie, thank you so much for joining us and looking forward to hearing your presentation.
Hi everyone, my name is Jacqueline. Everybody calls me Jackie. I work at a company as the head of token marketing for Covalent, and I'm very thrilled to be here to talk to you about why placing value on crypto communities matter and why scaling communities in general should be a big focus, whether you are in the blockchain or crypto space, or if you are a big corporation in the traditional space, or looking to take a company from private to public. I feel that sometimes we underestimate or underrate community building, which is actually, I feel should be a big focus. And you'll be surprised at the amount of power that communities actually have in driving a project. But before I go a little bit into that, I do want to give a little bit of a background on myself. I've been in the blockchain and cryptocurrency space for 6 years, and I've always been a huge proponent of talking about educational aspects because it's something that a lot of us have seen in the space, because I find that what an average person would go to learn about, let's say, blockchain, you normally mention that word and nobody knows what you're talking about. If you mention Bitcoin, it's just talking about the either the price rising or decreasing. And we want to see that shift where people are talking more about the technological aspects and all these cool innovations that projects are doing. But I love talking about community aspects as well, because I feel that our company champions a lot of community-driven things with a program that I'll be talking a little bit about too. But yeah, let's dive into a little bit on the differences between crypto communities versus traditional communities. And when I say traditional communities, again, I mean anything that's not related to the cryptocurrency or blockchain space. So it can be like big corporations, small businesses, any companies that have non-existent communities, or if you're looking to take something from private to public, there are a lot of big core differences. But starting with crypto communities, I feel that in the space, and a lot of us who have been in the space can agree that community in crypto is the heart and soul of a blockchain project. They can definitely define the success and evolution of a project, and can also influence how a project operates and how they evolve within a certain period. Whereas with like big corporations or in the traditional space, I feel that communities are overlooked and are underrated, as I mentioned. And it's very difficult to have a voice and add value unless you are a large shareholder in a company, unless you have connections or sit on the board. It's very different in terms of the transparency that's there. So with crypto communities, I feel that depending on programs that a lot of these projects run, where there are projects where you can become a curator, a validator, you can become a tester. In the differences with our program, it's based on growth and development. So you have a sense of really playing as an extension to the team, where we don't just treat you as a community member, but we actually implement our core values and company culture into our program and allow people to grow in a different sense. But you don't normally find those opportunities in, traditional communities to have that. But people in crypto, if they're part of communities or part of programs, you are able to, or we see a lot of people giving innovative ideas that can actually turn into tangible outcomes that projects and companies actually utilize that benefit everybody. And I think that's the beauty of being in the blockchain and crypto space. There's that transparency, that governance that I'll talk a little bit about, where people have the chance to actually dictate and vote where a project goes or where it leads to. They have a voice, whereas in the traditional space, you don't really have that. But one thing that I really admire about being in a crypto community, depending on how vibrant it is, it can be, there can be different scenarios depending on the project. There is that aspect of people having the opportunity, especially if they're in the lower income, to have the chance to be introduced to finance in a different way for tools that they never had access to. There's so much information in crypto communities, and being able to be part of programs or being able to be part of communities where you can learn a lot. Whereas in the traditional aspects, I feel like there is a lack of education, lack of tools and fundamentals, where you normally only receive those educational aspects if you actually know what's going on, within the company. We base a lot of decisions on like financials that come out or even like news releases. And I've been on both sides in terms of like, I've been an investor, I've been part of communities, I've done a lot of traditional stock trading, whether if it's short-term, long-term, or day-to-day trading. I've been involved in the crypto space in, advising companies in crypto trading. And also have sat in the back where I'm a community member and now part of a company in the blockchain space, which is Covalent, and now running a program that is community driven. So it's awesome to be able to see the different aspects and differences. And the reason why I'll talk a little bit about our program later is I do want to introduce the different like KPIs and awesome things that we've been able to see our community doing because of the program that we have and why it's made such a huge impact. And again, why I want to iterate why it's so important to have that focus on communities. And I feel like you guys are going to get tired of hearing me say communities like all the time, but it is important. It is one of the things that I tell people that is it's one of the things that it takes to be successful in the blockchain space is not just having an awesome product, a team that has experience, but having a vibrant community because it makes a big difference. But I read this article recently that talks about and compares community members to a football or a soccer team, where the team players are, the actual team itself, and the 12th man are the team supporters or community members. So they are people, again, that can definitely like encourage, motivate, and definitely shift where a project is going to go or help a project a lot. A lot of the ideas and feedback and the governance that come from community members is so important and has actually helped shape projects to improve products, to improve just like different aspects of the company and like ways that we operate. And again, that's where I feel people underestimate that power. And we feel that there's personally, like in our company, we feel like it should be a big focus, especially now these days we have access to a lot of platforms with technology where people are voicing more of their opinions and able to like tell people if a company is being ethically like correct, if things are like non-eco-friendly, things like that. So we're seeing a little bit more of a shift in that in the traditional space, but that's always been existent in the crypto communities. But yeah, again, I love that comparison. And with that, it's important to, where this comparison talks about the team and like fans, where you actually feel like you're part of something. You actually feel like you're part of a team. And it's important that it doesn't just span in different verticals or different projects in the blockchain space. I feel that we should be spanning this and communicating this to all industries because it can impact a lot of what you do. But this is where I'll talk a little bit about the Covalent Alchemist Ambassador Program, a program that we have. I will go a little bit more into what our community is doing and why it's actually gained traction, views, and how the program has taken a life of its own. So the Covalent Alchemist Ambassador Program was created because we found that a lot of community members were asking questions on how to get involved in the blockchain space. I mean, it is intimidating for those who don't or aren't really familiar with the technology, especially because a lot of what traditional media puts out there. So they wanted opportunities on how to get involved. They really believed in our mission and vision and wanted to find ways to contribute, or wanted, to find out a way of how to actually get a job with Covalent. So we thought, why not create a project that the community wants, where we can actually just have it focused on growth and development, where they can actually play as an extension to the team. And that's the best way of growing our team too. So we have about 30 people, but why not add thousands or like hundreds of other people to the program where we can actually share our skill sets, they can learn from each other, and also dictate and help the community grow in that sense. So in 2.5 months, we've been able to grow our community in that program alone to 2,000 people. We've launched 28 different regional communities that are ran by these members called alchemists. And these are initiatives that they take on their own. We've seen a lot of material that they've done that has actually like inspired our team, and it baffles us because again, it's a program that's taken a life of its own. People have been doing meetups, but it's because they feel like they're heard, and they feel like that they can actually contribute, learn. And we want to build opportunities for people in the community to be able to grow professionally and personally, and grow their portfolios, where it creates opportunities for them to get noticed by other people in this space, whether it's to provide them contracting part-time or full-time jobs. That's, you know, the KPI that we want to measure, but also having fun within learning about different aspects which the program gives. But yeah, a lot of these images, these are all things created by our community and things that we didn't even ask them to do. It's just, again, the fun that they're having in the program with their growth and development, but also having ways where they can engage and use their passions and learn about our product. And what's great about Covalent is that we do provide no-code solution with our API that doesn't require you to be a developer to pull data, because we have indexed the entire blockchain. We provide tools where you can learn about this and actually test our product in whatever use case that you want to build. And you're able to do that at the same time, like implementing your passions and creating cool things that you can see on this page. So we've had alchemists like build cakes. They've also been able to, you know, knit coasters, which we've seen some of the vases that it's an alchemist named Tanya, who we actually want to support her small business and what she's doing. So we've ordered a few coasters from her. We've had families taking part in, you know, drawing with their kids, teaching them about the tech, and actually adding them to the program, which helps expand our community. We had an alchemist who, you can see like the logo that's moving. They took an MRI of fruit and they taught us why they decided to take fruit in order to produce an image like that. So he didn't notice that he could be creative and use his profession in that way. So it's cool to see that. We've seen more meetups and people spreading the word about Covalent without, again, us asking that. That's just, they believe in this mission and vision that our team is trying to reach. We're all working towards something that's beyond ourselves, and they want to be part of that legacy. So why not welcome people to be part of that mission and vision? We don't want there to be that barrier. And it doesn't matter what skill sets that you're in. Like we've seen work and members from different parts of the world who want to play a bigger roles. We've had the registrants who have PhDs, they're dentists, they're doctors, they're architects who we actually have working on a project. We have developers who know how to build smart contracts, who know Solidity. We have like bartenders, we have construction workers, like mechanics. It's even people who don't even have knowledge in the space, but they're hungry to learn. So we don't want to add that barrier. Again, we want to welcome people and encourage them, and encourage community members to help each other and spread that knowledge and skill sets in order to raise awareness on what we're doing, which again, you don't normally find in the traditional space. So this allows people to really express their artistic and like other skill sets while learning about what we're doing. But it's also a program that's gamified. So here I'm showing just more things that they've been creating. They've been creating swag on their own. We have, again, children who are spending time with their parents, learning about Covalent, people creating like t-shirts, like cakes, again, embroidering things, which is pretty cool. But the one topic that I wanted to talk about that I covered in the previous slide about people who are like low income or don't have a background or don't have the tools. What's awesome about crypto communities is a lot of projects actually provide this. So within our program, we do have our data analyst named Brandon, who he basically is in charge of producing all these visually inspiring like charts that pull data on different aspects for different use cases. So we're actually training alchemists to build these skill sets to help them become actual data researchers that they can use on their profiles, which have created opportunities for a lot of these guys. And a lot of the work that, I mean, you're seeing now, like this chart that is basically the popular swap on Pangolin, it was made by an alchemist. So they've been able to train other alchemists to do the same thing. So it's providing opportunities. We have different campaigns like hackathons that is not just common like within Covalent, it's common within the crypto space and the crypto communities for people to take part in being able to like learn about the technology, being able to implement the products and build cool dashboards like we had two Alchemist OGs do here. And it's been noticed by other projects, and that creates opportunities to have access to grants, to continue building your skill sets, to have access to, again, being contracted, and to get a job with other people within the community. So we never underestimate any community members who are willing to hustle, who have a different background, because we've seen, again, what an impact that they can do. But another example too, we had an alchemist who she had experience, had just, she's still in school, had experience in copywriting, and that's what she wanted to do. The program allowed her to completely shift her focus on becoming a data analyst for Alpha Alarm. So she's working with Brandon, and she's become a leader, leading 10 people now and teaching them skill sets, and has had the opportunity to speak at like on panels to share her insights on what she's learned, along with our co-founder and CEO and our head of developer relations, which is pretty cool. Again, you don't find those opportunities in the traditional space, and why, again, I iterate, it's so important to have those community aspects, to have members be able to showcase and grow. And it's a different way of marketing to spread that, word of mouth too. And something else that we've been seeing come up is workshops. And I know I keep going through like a lot of things that our community is doing, but again, these are things that they dictate, and which is very cool, that I find very amusing and amazing in the crypto space, is community-driven programs and things. You see some really cool stuff like these workshops. So we have two alchemists who have experience. One, she's actually a smart contractor, had a workshop where she actually showed us how to pull data live. This was something that wasn't even like part of the program, but was requested. And they're just teaching people like their skill sets. Jennifer taught us about social tokens and NFTs. They gave us a big background on that. There's going to be a part 2 where Ghana, our alchemist, is going to teach us how to, build our own NFTs and actually code live. And a lot of people are excited about those things. There's going to be workshops on how to do like video editing, on how to Photoshop. You can do a lot of cool things in the community aspect. And we've seen just a crazy amount of growth on our platforms, on like our Twitter, our Discord, or our Telegram handles, including our regional communities. We have thousands and like hundreds of other people too. So yeah, I always get so excited about talking about this. We are recruiting more for season 5 if you're interested. If you have any other questions, I don't want to go over time, feel free to contact me at jackie@covalenthq.com. But yeah, I wanted to thank you guys so much for having me and for allowing me to talk to you about just the importance of community, and hope that you're able to implement this or different programs and champion those aspects in terms of, creating a vibrant community for yourselves. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jackie. That was fantastic. So great to see how much Covalent is doing to build. So I hope anyone who is interested will reach out to Jackie at the email she gave. And we're also going to be doing a Q&A in our breakout sessions, which are coming up next.
Thank you so much, Alexis. And I really appreciate for having the opportunity to speak about this topic. We are seeing a lot of women, especially in the space, doing and building some really cool things, and we'll continue to diversify, especially in our program. But yeah, thank you, anybody. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. But yeah, this was amazing.
Fantastic. Thank you. So looking forward to our breakout sessions coming next.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to wherever you are joining us from. My name is Louisa Bai, and I work for the Stellar Development Foundation in our Business Development and Partnerships team. I'm thrilled to be your moderator today on the topic of accelerating inclusion in the digital economy. Now, blockchain is rapidly disrupting our world, creating revolutionary new economic systems through the widespread adoption of not only cryptocurrencies, but digital assets overall, and more recently, DeFi. However, with female participation in the blockchain industry at less than 20%, yes, that is a shocking stat, this economic transformation needs to become a far more inclusive one. Fortunately, there are diverse ways that women can participate in this industry, and with a large talent shortage, it can be an incredible career accelerant for women across different disciplines. Discover from an expert panel of industry leaders where the key opportunities are for women to lean in and help build the future of our digital economy. Now, without further ado, I'd like to introduce you all to our esteemed panelists. First and foremost, thank you all for joining us today to discuss this important topic. I'd like to ask each of you to introduce yourself with these 3 questions in mind. What is your current role? How long have you been in the blockchain space? And the last bonus question is, with Canada finally lifting our lockdown slowly, what is the first destination you'd like to jump on a plane to and why? Anna Gabrielle Lobo from Mavenet, can I please start with you?
Yes, thanks, Luisa, and thanks for having me. So hello, everyone. My name is Ana Lobo. I lead strategy and operations at Mavenet. So Mavenet is a product company. We create blockchain applications for enterprises. And our vision is really to make it easier for industries like energy and supply chain to essentially streamline their processes through digitization. So in this role, I'm responsible for taking what is usually a very broad problem and the current state of practice and taking it through a strategy and then translating it into actual opportunities for improvement and business requirements that we can implement in our products. So I've been in the blockchain space for about 2 years now, so very new to it. Although in blockchain things move so quickly that it feels like a decade now. And I joined right after my MBA actually. So prior to that, I was working in business process optimization and digital commerce in Latin America. And I wanted to do a career shift, right? So to work with emergent tech, be at the forefront of change and disruption. So what really drove me to blockchain in particular is that it's not only a way to improve the way that we invest, work, operate in general, but if you do it right, it has the power to improve inclusion and also to create a level playing field for everyone. So yeah, that's what excites me about blockchain. So I've actually, the first place that I would go after they lift the restrictions. I'm currently in Panama, so I think that I jumped the gun on that one. We came for my brother's book, so yeah. Taking advantage of the summer.
That's awesome. I'm very jealous that you are in Panama and I am stuck here in Toronto. Why don't we move over to you, Janine? Janine from Deloitte. Can you tell us a little bit about what you do at Deloitte?
For sure. Thanks, Louisa. So Louisa and I worked together before for quite a few years. So I'm sad that she is elsewhere, but really excited to see her continuing to have a career in the blockchain space. So my role at Deloitte, I mean, titles, whatever. It's my current title is our National Digital Assurance Leader, but underneath that, I focus a lot on blockchain companies. So that includes everything from helping clients figure out, can we audit them? How would we audit them? To helping them with controls, get registered with IROC, help them get their reporting, everything like that all sorted out. So really anything in the crypto space where I can lean on my background of being a chartered accountant or a chartered professional accountant. So, I take my background of being fairly nerdy and then also working in a firm and consulting and kind of mush that up into my day job. But I basically get to work with people who are really excited, and they're generally changing the world in some manner through their companies. So it's something I really love doing. And how long have I been in the space? Well, I mean, officially and at Deloitte, how long would that be? How long were you there, Louisa? Because
3.5 years.
yeah, so at least pretty much as long as you were there. But I mean, on a personal level, it's been longer than that. I've always been a big science fiction nerd, and digital currencies and digital assets are something that's been around for forever when you think of science fiction. So I don't know, maybe sometime in my life became part of the community, but in a professional sense, probably, I guess it'd be the last 4 or so years. So, and where would I go if I got on a plane? I don't know. I just really want to see people, and I think I want to be on. I would have loved to have gone to Bitcoin Miami. That would have been amazing. But I think I would probably go for. Well, we actually have a wedding we need to go to in Finland next summer, so I at least need to make there. So, but hopefully somewhere before that. But Finland is definitely high on the list because of that. So, thanks, Louisa.
Yeah, no worries. I've never been to Finland, so that's definitely on my list. Not sure if that'd be the first one, but let me know how it is. Okay, I'm going to switch it over to you, Kalea. Can you introduce yourself, what you do at Absolute Combustion, and where you will go?
You know, I feel like my theme song since COVID started was that I'm on mute. Always forget that I keep pushing that button. So my name is Clay Carrington. I have a few different roles. So in the blockchain ecosystem, I'm the executive director for the Canadian Blockchain Consortium. We're currently the largest not-for-profit industry organization supporting education, advocacy, inclusion, research projects, and marketing, as well as like commercialization and adoption of the blockchain technology across the Canadian ecosystem. So I definitely love that role. I'm also the CEO of a tech company that I started back in 2009 called Absolute Combustion. So definitely a tech nerd. I design combustion heating systems originally for the recycling industry, oil and gas, and recently aviation and construction. So always been very, very technical. What I got into this space early 2017, it was before this big kind of bull market went, and it was my first experience with one of the market cycles in this space. Definitely kind of fell in love with it, fell in love with learning and researching about it. And let's see, where would I go? So I loved Bitcoin Miami. It was absolutely epic. When really good conference. Kind of reminded me of the Honey Badger conference in Riga, Latvia, but that one was definitely more for maximalists. This one did kind of have more of a crypto theme. And where I would go next, New Orleans, actually. Planning a girls' trip for amazing food, amazing cocktails, and no work whatsoever.
That's amazing. So fun fact, not sure if you all know, but I actually grew up in Louisiana between middle school, high school, and college. I spent about 10 years down there. So please sign me up on that all girls.
Okay, girl, September. Like Alexis,
okay.
There's a couple of us going. So
Done. Perfect. Last, but definitely not least, Pamela Draper from BitFo. Can you please tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Pam Draper. I run 2 companies actually, and I'll explain how they kind of fit together. The first is Patino Payments Inc., and the second is BitFo, which is a cryptocurrency exchange. So I spent about 14 years in investing in corporate banking in Canada with CIBC and then BMO. And I ultimately left to join one of my clients who had always worked in the payment space. And we wanted to build a cryptocurrency exchange. At the time in the industry in Canada, there was Quadriga, there was Einstein, and there were a couple of other really small startups. And we kind of know what happened in that situation. So we wanted to build something that was more user-friendly, certainly more automated, a lot more compliant, expecting that regulations would come in, and more safe and secure in general. So we built the BitFo platform, and through the process of doing that, we built a bunch of payments technology that don't have a lot to do with crypto, but more moving payments on the fiat side to facilitate the automation of the exchange. So the ultimate technology that is behind the automation of BitFo became Patino Payments, and BitFo Inc. is a cryptocurrency exchange based in Canada that's been live for almost 3 years now. And I think everyone on this panel said they've been in the business for 2 to 3 years. Like I've been in it for 3.5. And while that doesn't sound like a long time in this space, it kind of is, given that Bitcoin has only been around itself for, call it 11 years. And talked about more broadly, exposed more broadly since probably that run in 2017 that Kalea mentioned. Where would I go? I've been based in Calgary, which has been relatively good for the lockdown, given the amount of openness versus some other places. But my family is in Toronto and London, UK. So absolutely, the first time I'm getting on a plane, it's definitely go to one of those two places and see everyone again.
Amazing. Well, thank you. And thank you for all of your introductions. It was really good to get to know you all a little bit better. Why don't we jump right into some of the questions I had planned for us today. Now, the last year has been a pivotal year for blockchain. I think that statement in itself is a bit of an understatement. With Bitcoin, other cryptocurrencies, non-fungible tokens, Elon Musk's tweets, they have all gained mainstream acceptance and hundreds of billions in new investments. How is this transforming our economy? And where do you think the strongest new career opportunities are? And Pam, can I start with you to get your thoughts on this first?
Yeah, absolutely. So I agree. It definitely has become more mainstream this year, which I think when I read the question about it, where are the opportunities, my mind went to like, wow, unlimited, like where literally where do I start? But I think a couple of key areas that I see are in the traditional finance space, which is the world in which I came from. Most of the banks now are at least starting, some of them have integrated it, and some of them are starting to look at adding digital asset teams or blockchain teams. So I think if your background is more in traditional finance and banking, there's certainly a lot of opportunity to go to your existing world and say, hey, this is a new and emergent space, and I'd love to get involved. That's what I did 3.5 years ago, and I'm so happy that I did that. And I think when you look across the landscape, there's still some of these startups that are probably a lot more now, and then there are these traditional financial institutions that are implementing more blockchain digital asset type programs. So for the startup and the scale ups, the good thing there is they now probably have more of a budget, and where they're likely deploying it are probably two areas. I'd say one is on the development side. So if you have coding skills or if you want to develop them, I think that the demand for quality developers, particularly around the blockchain space, as you look out over the next coming years, is going to far exceed supply in my mind. So if you're just starting, I don't think you're too late to get into that. I think it's probably a great time to focus on it. And then the other side, I see real opportunity is in compliance. So a lot of these platforms have been left to kind of do their own thing for a while in every jurisdiction globally, and most jurisdictions now are really starting to clamp down and adding some compliance regimes. So if you're more on the legal side or if you have an interest in compliance, there's certainly a lot of demand for bodies in that space currently. Canada, for example, all virtual asset platforms were required to be FINTRAC reporting entities as of last June. FINTRAC upped its level of compliance and reporting requirements this June. And most digital asset platforms in Canada, depending on whether or not you custody and how you custody, are going to be required to be Canadian Securities Association registrants, which adds another layer of compliance there. So definitely if you have experience in that space, or if you want to gain experience in that space, I think there's going to be a lot of jobs in Canada and globally in that area going forward.
That's great, Pam. And Kalea, I want to get your thoughts as well, maybe more specifically in the energy and resources space. But before I jump to you, just a quick follow-up, Pam. You and I, we both come from traditional banking and capital markets. So if we're speaking to professionals who have lived in that space, a well-traditional developed industry, and they have skill sets like compliance, let's say, and they're unsure of whether or not they should make the jump from banking into crypto, what would be your advice to them and how to think about that?
So if you're interested, I'd say absolutely go for it. I wonder how I'd feel about it having made the jump 3.5 years ago, and it took me like 1 week being in a new emergent industry to be like, that was absolutely the right decision. It took me 2 months to think about it and 1 week to realize that it was an absolute no-brainer. If you're not sure about if that's what you want to do, I spend a lot of time talking to those in the industry that or networking with people in the industry and really trying to get a feel for their day-to-day and try to resolve any questions that you might have in your mind that might be putting that doubt in your mind. If the worry is just that you are worried about making a change and worried about making a switch, never worry about that, just do it.
I love it. I love it. And I will volunteer myself as one of those individuals. If you are unsure, I'd be more than happy to chat with you if you're on the fence about that. Great. Thanks, Pam. Kalea, can you please share some of your thoughts on the particular question as well?
Oh, definitely. Well, starting off in the space, I guess kind of like pre the last bull market and experiencing, learning all about the different like initial coin offerings that were coming out, a lot of the buzzwords that were at that time, the conversations around Bitcoin, not blockchain. It was definitely a very kind of like interesting, but also kind of controversial space getting into it back then. Seeing what's happening this particular bull cycle, I'm noticing quite a few similarities to the last one. NFTs are very similar to the initial coin offerings back in 2017, and definitely a lot of interesting market aspects that are coming up. I think in 2017 we had John McAfee that was quite popular on Twitter. This time we're having Elon Musk and Michael Saylor. So it's interesting to see the mainstream adoption. In terms of where the opportunities in the space outside of, say, the traditional finance sector into industries like energy, agriculture, supply chain, logistics, there is quite a lot of opportunity there, specifically in terms of developing out blockchain for supply chain, traditional industries like agriculture, being able to prove out the proof of provenance of anything from your cattle to your leafy greens, anything in agriculture realistically, showing that kind of proof of provenance, or being able to actually prove out, like if you have a high-end piece of meat right down to organic produce, that is very helpful right now, especially when people are looking at the export markets. Other areas like in energy, that the ability to kind of like track and trace and being able to do ESG, it's quite popular right now, being able to actually prove out and validate carbon credits in the space to be able to help companies kind of offset costs. I do believe quite recently it was our Supreme Court ruled that carbon tax was constitutional, and now it's going to be very well tracked. So organizations in energy are definitely looking into how they can show provenance of their carbon credits or track their ESG to be able to show how environmentally forward thinking they are, especially in Alberta. Supply chain and logistics are very key. There's quite a few companies in Canada right now that are looking at that. So it doesn't matter what industry you're currently in, there is an application for blockchain there, whether you're a programmer, whether you're a developer, whether you're into marketing. I think there's quite a fair bit of opportunity, and companies are growing exponentially. Like in the finance space, I think a company called like Bitcoin Well is one of the fastest growing Bitcoin ATM companies right now, especially in our Edmonton region here in Alberta. And they're just hiring like madness. Like if you have marketing background, they want you for marketing. If you have traditional finance background, they want you there. If you have compliance background, they want you there. If you have legal background. So any industry that you're currently in, you have the opportunity to kind of like expand out into this new and emerging market, and your talents would definitely be very well received.
That's great. Super insightful. I like the fact that you did call out it should be industry agnostic, because at the end of the day, I remember saying this over and over again, blockchain is a technology, right? And its use cases and what makes it really unique and different from all the others is that there you can find use cases across all industries. So super insightful answer there, Kalea. And I think this is also a good segue to lead into the next question, because blockchain is fairly unique because until recently, there was very little specialized formal education or training, let's call it. And most of the members of our industry transferred their skills gained in unrelated backgrounds. What do you think are the most critically needed transferable skills that women from other industries use to pivot to blockchain careers? And that one, Anna, could I get your thoughts on this first?
Yeah, absolutely. So let me take a step back with this question. I think that when blockchain started to grow as an industry, we did ask too much too soon out of users. So then the reason that it's finally reaching institutional and now mainstream adoption is that we've been able to create these bridges through NFTs, stable coins, and applications that can run in parallel to IT systems and that are easy plugin solutions. So I think that to take blockchain to the next level and to continue this path, we're gonna need more business and technology translators. So people that really understand business processes and how we can disrupt industries by simply implementing better, cheaper, and faster processes through blockchain technology. So what was key for me, for example, when I pivoted into blockchain, was to understand the vision beyond the technology. I echo what you and Clea said before. Technology, blockchain, and it's really just a tool. But once you understand the basics beyond blockchain, in my opinion, it's really about solving business problems. So like in any field within technology, you're still gonna need, like you mentioned before, marketers, project managers, business analysts, strategies, and so forth. So I actually think that people that can come from different backgrounds are even more valuable, because if you can separate yourself from what you're currently doing and identify those opportunities to improve and disrupt, and you're not afraid of going down this path of disrupting industries or calculated risk, then you can bring a lot of value to the industry.
Oh, I agree with that wholeheartedly. I think what I'm hearing is jump right in. Don't be afraid of whether or not you think you can add value, regardless of whichever industry it is. We'll be able to find you something that's meaningful. Janine, can I also get your thoughts on the transferable skills question? What have you seen from your maybe audit days that you were able to move into Deloitte and now leading the assurance practice specifically for blockchain at Deloitte?
For sure. So I think Pam actually hit on something that's super important, is really around compliance controls, all that sort of stuff, because what I'm seeing happening is, you know, companies maybe felt that they were operating in a vacuum without guidance, and there is a bit more guidance now, but it's also, you maybe could have taken some educated guesses to say this guidance applies to this, and my company is similar to this type of traditional company, so we're going to need these kinds of things in place. So I think, for example, for people like Pam and yourself, Louisa, with that background, it maybe was easier for you to sort of see how that might apply. But I guess what I think of for skills is that, well, hopefully you like your current job. Hopefully you don't go to work every day hating your current job, but maybe what is it that you love about your job versus what you don't? And then could any of that be addressed in a new type of environment, or with a new technology or a new company? And I think because you're going to be working with a lot of people who, like, I don't know about all you ladies. Well, I know obviously most of you ladies very well, but we're all really passionate about it, right? And we believe so much in blockchain, crypto, digital assets, you name it, that there's going to be a level of passion and intensity within this industry that you need to be ready to work with. And unfortunately, the ratio of men to women in blockchain is even worse than in overall tech. I mean, Kalea, maybe waiting for the bathroom in Miami, maybe made that obvious. It's the only place where, as a woman, you didn't have to wait for a bathroom, is what I was hearing on Twitter. So, you know, that in itself presents some challenges, and I know that's what we are talking about in other segments of our program today, but needing to be able to take some of those skill sets of, if you've worked in a male dominated culture before, or being firm in what you believe and what you need to bring to the table, because it can be really hard to try and bring your point of view to everyone if they, you know, think they know everything, or they don't see where your skill set can help them. So I think a lot of, sounds strange, but just being firm about what you can bring to the table and what your experience can help whatever kind of crypto or blockchain company that you're with is actually super important. And I would say what I've seen for companies that kind of ignore that sort of outside, like sometimes I think it's outside help and you don't get it, they're the ones who end up in trouble, honestly,
Right.
in the long term. So, you know, for me, it's easier for my background, audit controls, financial reporting, automation, all these things go wonderfully well into blockchain, which is probably one of the reasons that I work in it. But it was just easier for me to say, okay, it doesn't matter if you're a blockchain company, there's a framework when it comes to blockchain and digital assets. And guess what? There's a framework for financial standards. There's a framework for controls. There's all these kinds of frameworks that you can take and apply to any situation. Standards do not care about you and your technology. They couldn't care less, honestly, right? It is a standard and you need to figure out how to assess things within those standards. So I think it's maybe taking that global view and skill set and bringing that over to blockchain.
Right. No, that's great. And you know, I think, well, let's go ahead and just talk about this issue at hand right now. Much like the rest of the technology industry, blockchain has an inclusion problem, full stop. What do you believe are the key barriers to women specifically, women's participation to this industry, and how have you overcome these challenges that you faced in your career? Kalea, why don't I start with you on this one?
Yeah, I have, so starting off in combustion, or like in that particular tech space and energy sector, I never saw another woman at the table. I actually haven't met another woman in that space, and being in there for, I guess, going on 13 years now. It was like, you're so used to male dominance. Coming into the blockchain space, it would actually felt like a breath of fresh air. I immediately met like Janine and Pam and yourself, and it was just like, oh my God, there's so many women. This was amazing. It was like, you know, okay, let's start this like amazing female consortium, and you know, we're going to start supporting like women's inclusion. And it was like coming from something so heavily male dominated, where you maybe had like 2% women in the space, to coming to something like 20%. It was mind-boggling being able to create this camaraderie with all of these incredibly smart, talented women, and we're all pretty much geeks at heart in a lot of ways. And I just love that. In terms of creating even more inclusion, I definitely recognize that as a woman, it is intimidating being in a space where you see so many men. Like it was fascinating going to Bitcoin like 2021. It had 12,000 people. The conference sold out, and there were empty stalls in the women's bathroom. Like I didn't one time wait in line. And it was just like, okay, but I did see a lot of women. Definitely, I saw them there, but how do we include them further? It's like, you know, having the confidence to know that just because you are a woman does not mean you are not just as smart, just as capable, just as competent, just as knowledgeable as any other man in the space. And I think Arlene Dickinson kind of said something that kind of really hit home for a lot of women. It's like, may I have, you know, the, how do you put, the confidence of like a middle-aged white male. And it's because like men will naturally go, hey, I checked off like 8 of 16 boxes here, I'm absolutely applying for that job. Where women, we naturally go, okay, I need to check off 100% of this so that I'm competent to go for that position. And it's like, you really don't need to be. You need to be like enthusiastic and passionate, and you know, having some base layer understanding, but there's a lot of opportunity for training on the job as well. So kind of just creating that confidence, like, okay, a guy will go for it and a guy will ask for things, and he definitely doesn't check all the boxes. Women, we don't need to check all the boxes. We can learn as we go as well. Women, I know we feel very safe in more female-related industries, like, you know, beauty and healthcare, et cetera, and things like that. But the technology industry is an incredible place that is working towards more and more inclusion, right? They want to have women at the table. They want to have women on their boards. And the more diverse their organization, the more perspectives they have, the actual better their bottom line is, and the better their profit margin is. So they're recognizing that, and they're looking for women. So having the confidence to go out and put in that application, you know, you have a very good opportunity and chance of winning that bid, because likely you're, you know, they're going to be looking for you as much as you're looking to step into the space. I'd say organizations like what we're doing with the Canadian Blockchain Association for Women, and showcasing how many women really are in the space, is also another one. It's like when you can look and see, okay, there's more people like me, right? I'll feel more comfortable and confident. That's huge. And I do definitely recognize, like, coming from energy industry or other areas like that, like that not everybody is completely welcoming, right? Like I met a woman who was a computer scientist and just stunning and incredible and absolutely brilliant. And she was quite dissuaded from wanting to be in the industry because it was so male dominated, and she didn't feel very accepted. She felt, not very confident in that position because she didn't, get the welcome that she was kind of hoping for. And it took a lot of encouragement to be like, no, let's step back into it. There's other organizations that are definitely more welcoming. So even if you don't quite get that, inclusivity that you're hoping for, it's like, please don't let that deter you. It's like, there's more and more inclusivity. There's more and more women coming into the space, and women welcome women into the space. Like, we are absolutely thrilled and excited every time we see another woman. It's like,
Yeah. I agree wholeheartedly. And events like this, participating in events like this, hearing from people who are already in the space, and then just having them in your network and reaching out, I think it will hopefully be a multiplying effect, right? And we'll continue to support one another to ensure that there is more inclusion in the space. And I also want to get some of your thoughts on this question as well, because I think you might bring a different perspective. Anything you'd like to share, add?
Yeah, for sure. So I'll share an interesting story. When I first got interested in blockchain, someone described it to me as everything that you don't know about computer science combined with everything that you don't know about finance. So that really scared me. And I mean, as it's typical of us women to do when we don't know something or we're faced with challenges, I overprepared. So I started looking for opportunities in places where I knew that my voice was going to be heard, and where the culture was inclusive and conducive to making mistakes and learning. So the point that I want to make is that we need to change the storytelling. I mean, as Kolia said, blockchain can't be about the typical male hackers working out of their basements anymore. It has to be, and it is right now, about creativity, financial inclusion, trust, art, and those transferable soft skills that we actually need to start designing cool products that will take us to mainstream adoption. So yeah, no, and I echo what was mentioned before. Representation really does matter. So promoting events like these and changing the face of the blockchain industry is super important to start demystifying it.
Very well said. No, I agree with that. And with that, I think we only have time for one more question. And this one, I think I'm going to reserve for Pam and Janine. So if the last few years have taught us anything, it's that it's nearly impossible to predict anything. However, as a group of people with impressive knowledge about the blockchain industry, it would be great to hear your thoughts on potentially some predictions you may have over the next 5 years. What are the biggest changes you see on the horizon, and how can we as women stay ahead of the curve? Pam, why don't you start us off?
Sure. So I actually think we're just getting going. I think we're kind of at that inflection point, kind of similar to the early days, or the, call it, first quarter days of the tech boom, where the foundation has been laid. Historically, it's been left to smaller startups and smaller companies and passionate developers and tech people. And particularly in the last 1 year, you've seen a real pivot to bring in some of the larger institutions, whether that's larger tech, larger finance, et cetera. So I really think kind of the sky's the limit over the next 5 years. And I think the next 5 years is really when the blockchain sector and the digital asset sector gets truly integrated into the existing infrastructure, whether that's on the technology side, into certain companies implementing blockchain to replace redundant smart contract type functionality to reduce costs, become more efficient. Right now, there's probably a very small percentage of companies that have done that, but I think that you really start to integrate that into a much more larger percentage there. I think the financial system, particularly in terms of DeFi, starts to really embrace and integrate the blockchain related products and the digital asset products. In terms of how women can stay ahead of the curve, it's not too late. It's still really, like I said, we're in the first quarter. While we're at the end of the first quarter, I think we're still the first quarter. So get involved now. If you want to work in the industry, target jobs in that industry, it's the best way, I think, to learn is by doing and getting involved. There's tons of education in the space. There's tons of networking events. Those will open up and become in person soon. So if you really focus on it and put your effort behind it, I think it's absolutely not too late. There's tons of opportunity to get yourself up the curve really quickly, and then be one of the ones who got in on the first quarter and have 3 more quarters to go.
I love it. I love it. Janine, what about you?
So I definitely agree with Pam on the DeFi space. There's just so much that's out there to happen. I don't even think we know yet. I mean, the kinds of returns that people can get in DeFi, just accessing liquidity in ways that haven't been able to be accessed before. I don't even think we know yet. Some of the things that, I talk to clients about, I'm like, oh my God, I never would have even thought of that. And then it gets my mind just going crazy where else things might go. I also really think that there's likely to be even greater adoption of Bitcoin. And I actually think that hash power moving to North America out of China as it's happening now, and it's going to probably continue to be accelerated down that path due to some of the regulations China's putting in, will actually help a lot with companies and their ESG goals, for example, so that you can show that your Bitcoin was mined, let's say with, there's flare gas projects, there's hydro projects, there's, all sorts of projects where you're taking something that's wasteful and then making it into something that is decentralized and secured in form of the Bitcoin network. I really think things like the Lightning Network or Strike and all these sorts of additional technologies that are layering on top of Bitcoin are going to be really important because they fill holes in today's traditional financial markets where things might be slow, right? Or there's lots of layers of things to go through. At the same time, I think there's going to be enormous pressure / competition. I don't want to say I don't think New World Order is the right word to say, but I think it's 140 or 150 of the countries in the world are working on central bank digital currencies of some form. So there's all kinds of traditional players, new players going into a space, which to me just says we can't possibly have a clue where it's going to go because there's so many great minds, honestly, working on one of the biggest problems of our time, and that's the transfer of assets and value. So, I mean, I know NFTs are kind of at the point where, there can be corollaries to ICO scams, and then there's some things that are really interesting and I never would have thought of before, and new ways people are using NFTs. So again, I think, if we all had given up on the blockchain industry and crypto winter, because I know we've pretty much all been here, at least since crypto winter, then we wouldn't all be here today. So, and I think things have changed a lot. And even though there's tons of innovation and some bad things happened, I think there's just so much more people and so many more ideas and money really flowing in that it's anybody's guess where it's going to go. So how do women stay ahead of the curve on that? Do what women do best, which is this is so dorky, I'm going to say it, I just thought of it. We are like the original blockchain network because we really are great at connecting and helping each other, right? So I think that staying connected with your network and bringing others along so that they can, I'm so nerdy, become their own nodes of knowledge is a really good thing. So I'm sorry, I totally thought that up in the spot. It was not planned, but I can't help myself when the nerdiness, it just bursts out like a shining light. So yeah, I don't think we know, but I think, honestly, crypto Twitter can be disgusting, but it also helps me know about things that are going on. So I tend to watch crypto Twitter, and I just watch like some RSS feeds, and then obviously my own education and just staying on top of things. The information opportunities are endless. So women need to take it on themselves to make sure they're informed.
Thank you. And I 100% appreciate your nerdiness and all of the metaphors that you just came up and that just popped up. I'm going to steal them from you. And I would also add one prediction from my end, because you mentioned central bank digital currencies. I'm glad we did bring that up. I do think it will take some time for the governments to figure out their their stuff and getting their central bank digital currencies implemented out. And in the meantime, be on the lookout for stablecoins. Be on the lookout for what use cases stablecoins can enable, and how that can assist us in our day-to-day lives. I think that's an area I personally will be paying very close attention to. And with that, I'm going to thank each and every one of you for giving us some of your time today. Hopefully our audience found this to be very useful. I had a great time chatting with all of you, and looking forward to the next time we can come together again, hopefully in person. Thank you. Take care, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for that great breakout room discussion. As a founding member of the Canadian Blockchain Association for Women, which was established about 3 years ago now, it has been just incredible to see how much more inclusive our industry is really becoming. Of course, we still have so much work to do. Women are underrepresented in leadership, technical positions, and as well as company founders. Education, it's the key to accelerating women's progress, and we are so excited to be providing the CBAW blockchain accelerator grants to women who will be helping build the future of our industry. I'd like to thank our generous grant sponsors again, our platinum sponsors, 3iQ, Colivant, Guild One, iMining, and DC Bank, as well as our gold sponsors, Patano Payments and Bitfarms, and our silver sponsor, BitFo. You have all done so much to contribute to women's progress in blockchain and crypto. A huge thank you as well to our amazing speakers, Laurie Stein and Jackie Perez, and our fantastic panelists. We're going to be following this inspiring afternoon with another celebration of our inclusive industry during Canada Blockchain Week this November, and I encourage anyone interested in CBAW's vision to get in touch with us at info@cbaw.io or visit us at www.cbaw.io. Thank you so much for attending, and we look forward to seeing you again really soon.